We welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. We are very pleased to welcome in a guy that is living my best life right now. That's right, he's living my best life. Probably his own, too, but he's definitely living mine. That's Roger Mooking, chef, TV host, riding high off the Raptors. I mean, this guy's got it all going for him right now. Roger, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. So, look, we are a sports talk show, but we talk a lot of barbecue. We talk a lot of food. So we're going to start with sports, and that's you're a Toronto guy. You chose to live there. The Raptors are your guys. Tell me about it, man. How fired up are you?
You know, it's pretty amazing. The Raptors have been plugging along for a long time. There's been lots of ups and downs. A lot of superstars came through there. You know, we had the Vince Carters, the Chris Boshes, and, finally, after all of this time, it's come to a head, and the Raptors have won the championship, man. It's a pretty amazing, spectacular thing, and, just everything kind of fell together at the right place at the right time, and the right ownership, right management, right president, taking risks. Everybody was underdogs and hungry, and I think that really speaks to, what Canada is in the world and what Toronto is in the spectrum, so it's very inspiring for the city,
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So the question now becomes, everyone wants to know, where's Kawhi going? Look, Kawhi looks like he could never spend another dime in Toronto for the rest of his life if he chose to stay. Have you hit him up with any, you're going to come in and cook for him? Like, what are you doing to help the cause of keeping Kawhi in Toronto, Roger?
I haven't hit anything like that, man. I've been busy working, man. I've just been kind of supporting and cheering on for my TV and stuff like that. I let Drake do his thing,
Yeah. And, by the way, you overcame the Drake curse, too, which is yet another thing. So y'all got everything
going. There was no Drake curse. It's proof there's no Drake curse.
That's right. It's over. It's broken. It doesn't exist. Hey, you've got an interest. Like, the more I've read up on you, the more interesting you become. I mean, obviously, I saw you on Man Fire Food. That's how I kind of got to know who you were, and I love the show. And as I'm a certified barbecue judge, so I love anything having to do with flames and smoke and everything else. And so it was, the more I dove into your background, the more interesting you became. Man, how do you explain what your background is when people ask you kind of what your influences are as a chef, as a person?
It's just in my DNA. My grandfather's Chinese. There's Spanish in my family. Obviously African in my family. 5 generations ago, my family was slaves in the Caribbean. There's Spanish. There's Dutch. There's Corsican, French. It's such a dynamic mix in my DNA. So that I come by naturally. I was born in Trinidad. I came to Edmonton, Alberta when I was 5, and Trinidad is of the most diverse culturally places in the Caribbean. And I moved to Edmonton, Alberta when I was 5, and that was like a decidedly sort of like a white bread place. A lot of Ukrainian and Eastern European immigrants there, as well as indigenous Canadians. And multi-generational Canadians, So I was kind of sequestered from culture for a long time, except inside of my household and in my family. And we did that, and I lived there till I was about 15, till about 18. But during those Edmonton years, I would come home, and my mother wanted to immerse herself in the culture, so I would come home from school, and there'd be some Ukrainian baba teaching her how to make cabbage rolls and pierogies. So I was kind of like, learned that side of it too. And then I moved to Toronto, and I was working in restaurants and stuff. And I learned, I'm trained under French chefs, Swiss German chefs, Chinese chefs, Japanese chefs, Caribbean food like I grew up eating. So all of those things just kind of came into my fold. And when it came time to start making restaurants or doing television shows, like, okay, how do we explain what we do so we can market it so people can understand it? And I said, I have no idea. This is what I do. Let's figure it out. And we came up with kind of globally inspired as a trajectory for that, and just playing off of all of those global influences that just come naturally to me in my DNA, but just in my lineage, So what was very kind of difficult growing up turned into an asset now,
Yeah, and it's funny how that happens a lot. What you find difficult through your childhood becomes something that you really rely on and lean on as you get into adulthood. I'm curious, at what point did you, with all of these influences, at what point did you say, you know what, I'm in the food business. Like, I want to be a chef. I want to cook for people. When did that inspiration sort of strike?
I was 3 years old. My aunt asked me out of like jokes, like, "Hey, what are you going to be when you grow up?" And I just said, "Yeah, I'm going to be a chef." And I come from I'm now the third generation of food and beverage person in my family. So in the matrix of that, they started laughing. Going, "Oh my God, you have no idea what it means to be a chef, how hard it is." And so anyway, I kind of stuck to that guns. And when I was 15 or so, I started working in restaurants, and I just kind of kept doing that and learning and building. I moved to Toronto, and I was doing music kind of exclusively for a long time, and kind of learning restaurants and kind of expanding and continuing to do that. And then I went back to food full time after doing music full time for like a decade, and I just kind of kept just diving in. I just decided I just wanted to keep making things, so I continued making food and making music, and I've been doing that since I was like 15, basically.
So basically, you're just feeding us in as many different ways as you can.
Yeah, I like to say one feeds the body, the other feeds the soul, But I just like to make things, man.
Well, I will tell you this, Roger, that food feeds the soul as well. And I think you know that.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. I didn't say which one was what.
You didn't. You are correct, sir. When I'm cooking yesterday for Father's Day, and I've got Yacht Rock jamming in my house at full volume, I'm feeding a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of things happening yesterday. Speaking of Roger Mooking he's a chef, he's a TV host. We're going to get into your music career in a bit because, how versatile can one guy get? All right, so you kind of make your way forward. You get into the restaurant industry. You're kind of getting into that. How do you make that transition from, okay, I'm strictly back in the kitchen to now I'm going to be in front of a camera. I'm going to be pulling the layers back on what it means to be in a kitchen, how to cook, that kind of thing. How did you make that transition to television?
Well, it was really naturally, like some of the people knew me from the music, from the Food Network back in the day, but I was running this small little restaurant in a very quaint part of downtown Toronto on the East End, kind of off the splash radar, and it just happened to be around the corner from where the Food Network used to film shows. So they used to come in at that time like 3-4 times a week and just hang out and then come and eat dinner. And I didn't know them for a year who they were. Before long, they introduced themselves. After about a year, they introduced themselves as from the Food Network. Previous to that, I just knew them as Tanya and Holly,
Yeah.
Regular customers.
Sure.
And they would come out all the time, and after a while, they introduced themselves, and they said, "Look, we work for the Food Network. We like your food. We're here all the time. You're very friendly. How about you try doing some shows for us?" And so I kind of reluctantly started that process because I had done music for so long, and I just wanted to have an anonymous life at that point. I've been through all that other stuff, the hoopla. So after a while, we sat down and we started banging out a bunch of different ideas, and after a couple of years, we finally ended up on this one concept that kind of pinpointed exactly what I did culinary-wise and cooking inside of a kitchen, sort of an instructional show. And we punched that show out, and that show did really well in Canada. We started selling it all over the world, like 30 different countries, something like that. And then the Cooking Channel came along. They were opening up, and they bought that show, and it did really well on Cooking Channel in America. And ever since then, I've been working with Cooking Channel in America and Food Network there and banging stuff out. So it was just really a natural process. And I think I really liked how passionate they were about what I was doing, and they were passionate about what I was doing, and it just made sense, and we just kept going. And here we are a decade later, and we're just keeping going,
Yeah, it's all you can do. All right, so obviously, like I said, I know you from Man Fire Food. That's how I was introduced to you because I'm a Southerner. I'm a barbecue guy. I love the concept of it, and every time I watched it, I was intrigued by what I was seeing. Not just because people were typically cooking some sort of a meat, but it was the way they were cooking, and so many different avenues to go to find a way to cook a piece of meat. It was really fascinating. How did you kind of discover that, or was that your idea? How did that idea come about? Because Man Fire Food is such a great concept. How did it all begin?
The concept of that show started with the executive producer. Her name is Irene Wong. She was sitting on that concept for a little while and had it pitched to the network. And it was kind of sitting in at the network for a while. They feel there was a couple missing bits and pieces to it. And so finally they said, look, what do you want to do with this concept? And we said, look, we think we want to try this guy, Roger, as a host. I was coming from Everyday Exotic and Seekers with them, and I had a lot of success with them with that. And we were looking for a new vehicle for me to jump into, and this thing was kind of sitting on the table for a while, and I had told one of the executives that I was passionate about fire growing up and playing with fire, and I think it just clicked in his mind that, what if we put these two together, put this guy who loves fire, like passionately as a kid and coming up, and we have a background with him. His show seems to do really well, and this concept that we're really, really liking, let's put those two things together. And we did, and before you knew it, here we are, man. 8 seasons later, and still banging Man Fire Food, and people really seem to enjoy it.
Oh, it's a tremendous achievement. I love every episode. I'm curious, what are there more memorable ones that stick out? Are there certain maybe ways of cooking or things that you've seen, contraptions that people have put together that have sort of stuck in your mind more than others?
Yeah, there's so many, but there's some really good ones done on Napa and Inferno contraption that was really well done and executed with large fish on it. We've done some, obviously, in Hawaii where we go under the ground with the lava rocks, and, we made a whole bunch of food in trays and pans. We made, like, cake, desserts, as well as savory dishes and lau-laus, burger lau-laus, and that kind of stuff. And in Jamaica, we cooked on pimento wood, where the wood was actually the grate, and we smoked on that with green wood, and it really infuses the flavor of the pimento into the chicken. And some of those are some of the most memorable ones, man. Where just very simply using the tools and the tricks very easily, and just doing it right, and not trying to extend it or trying to get too fancy with it. A lot of times just simplicity is best. Do a good thing well, and it'll turn out really great,
Absolutely. And I will say this, one of the things I really respect about you is that you get your hands dirty. It's not you're sitting back there going, oh, hey, let's watch this guy stack this wood. Like, no, you're in there, you're jumping in, you're digging the hole. You mentioned the cooking with lava rocks. You're in there digging the hole to help them. I love the fact that you're in there hands-on.
Yeah, well, I want to be part of the process, and I want to feel what it's like is getting in there. There's no way you can listen to a song or you can play the song, right?
Yeah.
I like to play the song,
No, I don't blame you at all. And I will tell you, you have been to two of my favorite places in the entire world. We're in Northwest Louisiana, basically 12 miles from the Texas line. One of your recent episodes, actually, I think maybe 2 episodes ago, you went to my favorite barbecue joint in the country, Killen's, down in Pearland. And you got to meet one of my favorite guys, Ronnie Killen. I think, and he's killing it, by the way. You're welcome for that pun. Use that anytime you like. Tell me about that experience, because this is a guy who started with a steak restaurant, a fine dining, and I've had his $95 Wagyu ribeye, by the way, and it's amazing. Then he basically was selling barbecue out of the back of his steak joint, and he opened a barbecue place, and he was selling burgers out of the back of the barbecue place. He's opened a burger joint. I mean, this is a great success story, and you got to go down there and visit him.
Yeah, he's a really great guy. Like what you see on the screen, he's even nicer in person, to be honest. And he was so gracious with his time, with his food, with his knowledge. And I think that just speaks volumes of the reach of the show, but also just, great people. Like when I come to a place and meet a really nice, great, gracious person, and they're hosting us and they're a guest on our show, it's a real give and take. And when that give and take happens really authentically, I think it shows for the viewers. And like I said, man, he's one of my favorite people for sure. Gracious guy, extremely knowledgeable. He really dives into the research of all of his dishes to make sure that they are authentic and really time-honored. But he's putting little spins on things here and there, too, to make it unique, right? So all of those things I appreciate, the respect for the craft, but also trying to push the craft forward a bit, you know?
Yeah, Andy's, by the way, about to open up a Tex-Mex place while he's at it, so he keeps
Yeah,
expanding the brand.
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You also got to
Great.
visit. You also got to visit the Perini Ranch in Buffalo Gap, right outside of Abilene, which to me is one of the coolest locations. You basically drive out in the middle of nowhere, like someone's going to dump your body, and then you turn off onto this gravel road, and you come on this really cool piece of land where they're cooking up, steaks that are as good as anything you'd ever want to eat. I really enjoyed the Perini Ranch episode, and I've got to imagine the first time I went there, I was going with a friend, but I swear he was going to dump my body, Roger, because it certainly felt that way driving out there. But what a cool place that Perini Ranch is out in Abilene.
It's true. I feel like we've been to a lot of places where we drive some backwoods, turn a corner, and all of a sudden it opens up to this place. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
what is this place, you know? And it's just magical, man. That happens a lot, man. That happens a lot.
All right, let's talk about the upcoming episode because it's really good timing for you to be on the show, even though the folks in South Louisiana pretty much consider us East Texas up here. We still do plenty of good Cajun food. We still do plenty of good Creole food. You got to go to South Louisiana and get involved, Prairieville, Baton Rouge. Tell me about that experience with not only the barbecue side of things, but also our favorite, crawfish.
Yo, I had some of the best crawfish of my life. Actually, the best crawfish of my life this year. And you saw that location already came up in the new season, the batch of season 8 episodes there. And I love crawfish. I love crawfish. When we were in the heart of crawfish season, these people owned hundreds of acres of crawfish farms, and they're pulling that stuff. They were right through, so they're plump and juicy and really tender and sweet. At the height of the season, they're big and fat and really, really awesome, man. I really love crawfish, and that was the best crawfish I've had in my life. And you know that pocket of the country is one of my favorite places in the world. That whole New Orleans, La Place, all that pocket down there is just a special part of the country. It's steeped in so much tradition, like you said, from the Creoles and then the Cajun influence. And, you know, there's the French lean on that stuff. There's an African lean on that stuff. There's spices coming from the Caribbean. There's the twang of their accent is just magical. And the people who are there know that they have something special, and they let you know about it in a very humble way. You know, they're just appreciative, and they love where they're from, man. And it's so infectious.
No, it's amazing. And you should feel right at home because a lot of the folks that settled in South Louisiana were Canadians.
Yeah, a lot of Canadians and a lot of Caribbean people, too, right? So for me, I feel like when I go to that pocket, some of those pockets, I feel like I'm in parts of the Caribbean. The humidity is thick like that. It's hot like that. The food is different, but you get some of the spices. You know what I mean? So, and just the feel of the people. They're so warm and open, welcome, and they give you the shirt off their back, you know. And I feel that a lot when I hit some of those pockets in that region. You know?
Some people, though, you probably would rather them just leave their shirt on down there. I'm definitely one of those guys. You don't want the shirt off my back. No doubt about that. Hey, Roger, talking to Roger Mooking, again, chef, Toronto native. He's flying high off the Raptors, winning the championship. He's already promised that he'll cook every meal for Kawhi Leonard if he'll stay. We got that on. Oh, wait, you didn't say that. No, never mind. You didn't say that. But also, this to me is kind of interesting, Roger, and I didn't know this about you. Again, I'm coming at you from the food side of things, and the more I get into it, I'm like, wait a second, this guy sings? Like at one point he went by a DJ name? Like, tell me this, how did you get into this musical background and where you're now producing your own albums?
You know, like when I was 15, when I was younger, I was always grew up around music. You know, in my household growing up, there was always food and music. My dad used to collect records. My brother used to collect records. He was a DJ, my brother. And so I came up around listening to all kinds of music, from Santana to Trinidad Parang music to Simon and Garfunkel to hip-hop. You name it. We listened to everything in our house, except maybe for country, you know? So we came up in that, and there'd always be food and music going on. We'd be eating breakfast, talking about what we're eating for dinner, with music playing in the background always, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that seeped into my pores. And when I was 15, I started working in restaurants. And I'd take all my money from the restaurants and go to the recording studio. And I did that. And before long, music really took off. And, I'm very fortunate to do some awesome things with music. Played with James Brown, and the Fugees, and the Marley Family, Tribe Called Quest, and Celine Dion.
Wait a second.
Crazy.
One of these things is not like the others musically. I'm just saying. There's a little Celine Dion, man. That's getting out there.
Yeah, no, we did a lot of stuff with music a long time, like awards for music, lots of awards for music and stuff. So, so I just continued to do that, and I went back to food. So throughout my life, there's periods in my life where the music dominated my calendar, and other periods where the food dominates my calendar. Right now, it's kind of like mixed half and half, where the music and the food is dominating the calendar. But this right now is my fourth solo album, So I started with solo albums in 2008, 2012, 2013, and now 2019 just released this album. And I just love to make things, man. And I'm good at making food things and good at making music things. And I just love to make things, man. And that's my contribution to the world,
Yeah, and it's funny because there are those of us, and I speak for a living. That's my entire job, and I consider myself very left-brained. I don't think I'm that creative. If you put me on Chopped, I would be the first one chopped, because I would just, they'd give me, here's your 5 ingredients. I'd be like, all right, well, here's these 5 ingredients on plates. Like, I hope you like it. I wouldn't have any ability to be creative that way. And yet, you think of, I guess people think of food as you're doing the same thing over and over again, right? When you get a good spaghetti recipe, you do the same thing over and over again. But in reality, everything you do is creative on the food side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can give 5 different chefs exact same ingredients, and they'll come up with totally different things. And that just tells you that that's their mind, that's their spirit, that's their lineage, that's their history is coming out in their food, and that's how they each respectively represent themselves, or like show their craft, right? So same thing, man. You give 5 bands the same instrument, they're going to come up with 5 totally different songs, and that's just the creative spirit. And I feel very fortunate that I've been blessed with the capacity of like the left and the right brain simultaneously, and being able to kind of do both of those things. I realized not too long ago that that's an unusual thing,
Oh, no doubt about it. Because most of us are either, kind of on the left brain analytical side or on the right brain creative side. Very rarely do anyone combine both, and that's indeed a very rare thing. All right, Roger. So what's next, man? Like you got an album that's already out. You've released now your 4th solo album. You got Man Fire Food, which is rocking and rolling in 8 seasons. You're all over the place. I think didn't you show up on Good Morning America before this past couple of weeks? Right? You were
yeah. Just did Good Morning America with Michael Strahan. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I mean, what's there left for you to conquer?
Oh man, I'm not about conquering, man. I'm just about making things and making sure that I can, honor the history of my family and the future of where I envision this whole thing going, and being able to reach those things. I just want to continue to make more things and impact more people and let more people hear it and taste it, and continue to do more and broader, and expand my own creative capacity. Like I feel like this album really extended my creative capacity from my last album. So I'm now working on how do I push that envelope even further on the music side or on the culinary side. How do I push that even further on the culinary side to really drive my creativity? And I want to expand into different things and maybe start making different things as well with the tools that I've kind of got in my kit,
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Do you feel like you still have plenty of ideas on the Man Fire Food side? Because 8 seasons is a lot. You've visited a lot of different people. You've seen a lot of different ways that people cook. Do you feel like there's still plenty of ideas out there, places you haven't gotten to, things you want to explore?
There is definitely. You go to Southeast Asia, or you go to Turkey, or you go to Eastern Europe or Spain or South America. And just when I think I've seen it all, I look at those cultures, I go visit those cultures, and I see what they're doing with live fire cooking, and it just blows my mind. Stuff that I never thought of, stuff that I never saw or envisioned or imagined, and they're just doing like, wow, how did they even come up with that? But they've been doing that for like 1,000 years, right? So there's still a lot of breadth to see out of man-fire food and live fire cooking. I'd like to showcase some more of those things and the diversity and the breadth of what those things mean, because that's the direction our world is headed, right?
Man-Fire Food International.
Yeah, man. I'd love to do some of that, man, for sure.
Oh, that would be absolutely amazing. All right.
Yeah.
We know the show Man-Fire Food Wednesdays, 8:00. We're all Central Time here, Roger. So you're not going to get any Eastern time out of me.
Good.
I hate Eastern Time. Not a fan at all. But that's not a subject we need to get into. 8 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays, and I love it. This Wednesday, you're in South Louisiana. You're in Prairieville for some barbecue, but also some crawfish, and you go over to Baton Rouge and get to do some stuff as well. And then this is what I love. This is the variety I love. This Wednesday, you're in South Louisiana. You're doing barbecue and crawfish. Next Wednesday, you're in California doing Mediterranean farm to table. I love, man, that's what I love. Like, I may never get to California to enjoy Mediterranean farm to table cooked with a live fire, but man, you bring that to me, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about what you do.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll inspire you to get up and get out to California and check it out, man. It's not that far.
Oh, well, it's a ways. But yeah, it's a bit of a ways out there, my friend. But look, I'm definitely a guy. I do like to explore. I mean, I will say this. Sometimes you go in the cuisine, like when I went as a kid, I didn't have an expansive palate, but I went to Australia as a kid. And I hated the cuisine because it was all British inspired, and I thought it was all bland. I thought the best meal we had was Kentucky Fried Chicken. But I'd like to go back and try it again as an adult with a little bit more appreciation for what food actually is, and I think I might have a different experience there. So
I think so.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. All right. By the way, where can we get the album? Eat your words.
Yo, go to rogermooking.com/music, and you can check out stuff there, or you can go directly to any platform. You can go to Tidal, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Prime, any of those things, and stream the album. Eat your words, and it's all live there, man. It's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good one.
I'll tell you, the next time I'm cooking, I'm streaming that on my Apple TV while I'm cooking.
Awesome.
We're turning Yacht Rock off for the day, and we're going to turn on your album. I just I love it, man. I love what you do, Roger. I think you're fantastic. As I said, you're kind of living my best life right now. You're enjoying a championship in sports. You're getting to enjoy the best of food that you can have. You're doing a lot of things creatively. I'll try that again in English. But man, I love what you do, and I just want you to keep going out there and doing it. It's very inspirational, and it is a heck of a lot of fun to watch you have fun doing what you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting, man, and having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, you are quite welcome. Roger, best of luck, man.
Thank you, man. Have a great day.
All right. It's Roger Mooking.